What's up, everybody? All right, I'm going to do a little bit of an advanced, intermediate, advanced. It kind of depends how you look at the scale. Thank you guys for commenting on that post, letting me know if you want a more beginner or more advanced lessons. That does really help me. Once you start getting into a certain level of playing, it is a little bit more difficult for me to navigate those lessons if we're not doing a one-on-one, just because the spectrum becomes broader as you get better, rather than like some of the beginner lessons are a little bit easier to figure out what the usual issues that beginner guitar players are having. So let's get into this advanced, intermediate, advanced lesson. This is just something that I love for you guys that are getting into improvisational playing. This is also really great for melody building. And it does have a touch of theory. So let's get into it. I'm just going to use this A major. Okay, and the reason is the fifth position is sort of pleasing for us guitar players. And I'm only going to be using the numerical system. I won't be using, A through G with the sharps and flats. So you need to know the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, however high you want to go on it, but we're in A major. The reason that this becomes very significant in knowing those numerals and knowing where they are in the scale, knowing immediately that that's the fifth, that's the third, the fourth, the sixth, the one, the two, the seven, being able to name those at the drop of a hat is going to be incredibly beneficial for improvisation. And the faster you can do it in improvisation, the better your melody building is going to be. Melody building is not something a lot of guitar players only get into, or I should say, depending on the style. And the only reason that ends up happening is we end up navigating sometimes a little bit more towards like a blues rock thing, like a blues rock section, and we don't have to sit down and come up with melodies unless that becomes part of our playing and a little bit more of a composition playing, or for you songwriters, this is a little bit more for you songwriters. So this is an issue. I see a lot of metal guys. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. I was going to say metal, but that was only specific. A couple shredder guys, but a couple rock and blues guys that want to develop a sense of melody because they're getting into other genres, and maybe they're working with a songwriter and working with a band, and they want to be able to come up with that. So this is super beneficial for all-round musicality, all-round guitar playing. Let's get into it. Taking my 1, my 4, and my 5 chord in the major scale, in the major keys. That's all major, 1 major, 4 major, 5 major. The reason I'm using those is it's going to cover every single note in the major scale. So what I mean by that, numerically, my 1 chord, if I'm just doing a triad, is a 1, a 3, and a 5, and then it repeats all the way down through the scale. So what that means is every time you have a 1 or a 3 or a 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Those notes are going to fit over that chord. Now, when we move the same way to a 4 chord, now what we have is a 4, a 6, and a 1, a root note. Right, and then our 5 chord is a 5, a 7, and a 2. All right, so that means over the 5 chord, every 5, every 7, and every 2 is going to fit over that 5 chord. Why that becomes so significant and why it's great to start in a major key is if you're somebody's playing and you want to come up with a melody, right? So I'm just jumping in something right off the cuff is that I'm starting on the 3, fits right over that 1 chord. Don't remember exactly what I played. Coming right here, that's my 6. All right, that's going to fit over my 4 chord. And then I kind of ended it with a 5, which fits over my 1 and my 5 chord. Okay, so now what you're going to start thinking about is on each one of these chords, what notes all the way up the scale are in each one of these chords. What scale degrees are in each one of these chords. If I keep saying scale, degrees, and chords, I'm going to forget what order I said those in. So what I mean by that is you have a 1, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, all the way up the scale is going to fit nicely over that 1 chord. Right? Then, when we have 4, every 6, and every root note is going to fit nicely over that 4 chord. So while you're improvising, that is how you'll develop a sense of playing over the changes. If you're writing melody, that's how you won't have to fish for it. What happens... Oh, that's... No. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. You know, you won't have to do that. You'll have it already set out. When you get to that 5 chord, right, you'll know what notes. Now, to take this one step further is, it's a little bit easier now developing melodies. This is going to go a little further. I want to make this video as quickly as possible. When we start going a little bit further, or I'm sorry, how you can practice that really is just record something on the phone. A 1, 4, 1, 5. And I would recommend doing it slowly and start playing over those chords, landing on those notes as you want to. Really, what starts happening is what you don't want to do. This is not a melody. If I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I'm just hitting the notes in each one of those chords, right? My 1, my 4, and then my 5. So you want to start developing that sense of melody and really messing around with it and understanding what each degree is going to sound like, okay? This is my A, right? If my melody, that 3 sounds different than my 5. Your 5 is going to sit a little bit nicer. It's going to be a little bit more stable. That 3 is not quite as stable. It sits out there, and then your root note always, right? Oh, jeez. Luckily I'm in tune. That root note is always going to be the most stable. And so now that means when we go to the 4 chord, same deal. Your 4 is your root note in that chord. So that is always going to be the most stable. Do you want that, or do you want to start messing with it? This is how you kind of develop that sense of melody. And then kind of understanding where you want that melody to go. You already know where, well, once you develop this, you already have an idea of where you want to get to for the next chord change as it's happening, okay? So I want you guys to try that. Now, getting into the next part of this is we did that using the major scale. It will work with any mode, and it will work in any key. What I mean by that is if we just take minor, 4 minor, 5 minor, okay? It's the same deal. Every 1, 3, and 5, every 4, 6, and root note, and every 5, 7, and, 2 are gonna fit. But the 3s in this scale are all flat. The 6s are all flat. The 7s are all flat. So it's still going to work, right, in that way. So then if you're playing your natural minor, right, you'll now know where every 1, every flat 3, and every 5 are. You'll know where every 4, every flat 6, and every root note is, and then you'll know where every 5, every flat 7, and every second is in that scale, and then that's how you use it over those changes. This is the same thing if I were to switch to Dorian and just do like a 1 to a 4. Sorry guys, my battery kind of flipped off. To a 4 major now, right? 1, 4 major to 5 minor. Now same deal, that 1's minor. 1 flat 3 5 all the way up. Now this 4 is major. So now I have a 1, my natural 6, and my 4, which is my root note. My 4, my natural 6, and my root note, right? Which is a little bit of a juxtaposition because we're playing a minor, but that Dorian has a 4 chord that's major. And then same when I get up to that 5 chord as minor, it's still gonna be 5 flat 7 and 2. So I really want you guys to take that concept and really dive in and see if you can play. One really great exercise is just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Just all the 1, 3s, and 5s. Then go back down. Do all the 4s, 6s, and roots. Right, nice and slow. Come back in with every 2, just because that's going to be my starting, but every 5 flat, or every 5, 7, and 2. all right, and then developing that into your sense of melody. What other notes, what other passing tones do you want to use? Do you want to land on a 2 on the 1 chord? Do you want that to be your melody now? Now you know that you're supposed to land on a 1 or a 3 or a 5. You're landing on a 2 instead, and then you're moving to one of those tones, all right? There's a whole lot in there that these are the kind of lessons where I can't really expand too much more unless you guys kind of comment on what you want to know moving forward. But this is kind of the baseline of developing your own sense of musicality with this information. So, guys, again, if anybody does want one-on-one lessons, they're super, super inexpensive, especially now. And that'll help me take this information and then move it into something that you guys can then use for your own personal use. But I hope you guys like the lesson. I'm trying to make these a little bit more advanced. I can only get them on YouTube, so watch on YouTube, and I'll be back for more.